Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, and tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. It is you, Lord, who came to save the heart and soul of every man. It is you, Lord, who knows my weakness, who gives me strength with thine own hand.
My dad was a coal miner. Pretty much everybody back where we lived then were coal miners. He worked in the coal mines. The name of it was Ogle Bay Norton. Isn't that a great name? Ogle Bay Norton. It was in Crupperneck. He worked there a long time. Coal mining back then, this was many years ago, was really hard. And he got injured and he got disabled and he had to quit. My mother began to work then outside the home. She was a cook at the grade school. Times were tough, but it was pretty much tough for everybody that lived where we lived. My dad was very shrewd, very shrewd. And you're saying, well, shrewd about what? Everything. He was shrewd about everything. He was a thinker. He was constantly thinking. He only had a 5th grade education, but that was pretty much commonplace back then. The men, the boys had to go out and work. He was always thinking, and he was always telling me things. He had all these sayings. He said when he had a problem, when something was bothering him, when he had to work something out, when he had an issue he had to deal with, he would sleep on it. He would think about it as he went to sleep. And many times he got the answer and he was able to correct the problem or do what he was wanting to do. He had many sayings. He told me, he said, every time you get out of your car and you're walking away, turn around and look back. He said, you may have left your lights on, you may be getting a flat tire, always turn around and look back. Of course, we have cars today that tell us all that stuff. But you know what? Till this very day, when I get out of my car and I'm walking away, I turn around and look back. I remember him telling my wife, because she sort of drives a little fast, I remember him telling her, he said, when it rains, when it comes to rain, especially in the springtime or the summertime, and if you go out and you're driving, slow down. He said, when it rains like that in the spring, all that oil on the pavement will come up and it'll cause you to slip and slide in your car. Next time we have one of those rains, listen. You'll hear a siren just after that because people don't slow down. They don't slow down. He said, when you find a girl you like or you think you like her, he said, do this. Run. Run. Get away from her. And if you can't stand it, if you can't stand being away from her, then she's the one. Then she's the one. I really did that. I followed that advice. He said, don't worry about the nickels, the dimes, or the quarters. He said, take care of them. He said, if you take care of the nickels and the dimes and the quarters, the dollars will take care of themselves. He was always thinking. and always giving me advice. And as I look back on it, it was very, very good advice. We had like 10 acres when I was growing up, a small farm. Got to where he couldn't take care of cattle and stuff, and he sold 3 acres. He sold 3 acres. And I thought, why did he do that? Because me and Ben would go on that and we would play softball, we would ride bikes, we'd do everything. But he sold 3 acres. And I wondered why. He was always thinking. This was in the 60s. Excuse me. This was in the 60s. And back then, what a lot of people did, they would wash their cars for entertainment. You would see people everywhere washing their cars. They actually enjoyed that. They would go out, you'd see them along the side of the road, wiping their cars down. And after they waxed their cars, after they washed their cars, they would wax their cars. You've seen that everywhere. People really like doing that. I don't wash my car now. That's what rain's for. No, just kidding. But anyway, they would do that. They would do that. And my dad would watch them, and he was thinking, well, what he did, he took the money he sold from the 3 acres. And we had another piece of land right on the highway beside a gas station, a perfect lot. And what he did, he took that money and he built a car wash. Now that was something different back then. He built a car wash. It had 2 stalls and it had 1 outside stall for trucks. It was built out of blocks, had a big gravel parking lot, had a vacuum cleaner out front to vacuum the cars, and had a pop machine sitting there. My job was to fill the pop machine, and I always kept it full. Well, where our home was, we could sit on the back porch and we could watch people coming into that car wash. It cost a quarter, 25 cents. They would come into the car wash. A lot of people was coming into the car wash and washing their cars. It was very successful. And we would sit on the back porch on the swing, and I'd watch my dad, and when the car pulled in, you could see him smile. Ka-ching, quarters. It took 25 cents, took 4 cars to make $1. Think about that, 4 cars to make $1. It took 40 cars to make a $10 day. And back then, $10 was a big day. $10 was quite a bit of money. It was a long time ago. One evening after, we would go over at dark and we would collect the money out of all the machines. And we was collecting the money, and this man drove in a big black shiny truck. Oh, it was a nice truck. He pulled into a stall and he started washing his truck. And we noticed that he was looking around more than he was washing his truck. He was looking everywhere. And my dad walked out there and he began talking to my dad, and he asked him all these questions. My dad really didn't answer the questions, but he gave some sort of response. He was asking questions about the business and this and that. And at the end, the man said, I have a car wash at Cowan, 10 miles away. And he left. My dad said, he's up to no good. He's up to no good. About 3 or 4 weeks after that, I was riding my bicycle out the straight of Craigsville. There's a 2-mile straight in Craigsville, and that's where the businesses are. And I was riding my bicycle out there, and I rode out there, and I noticed on the left, boy, there was bulldozers, and they were digging up ground and this and that. And a few days later, I rode by there, and who do you think I seen? The man that was asking my dad all the questions. Now, what did he have in mind? Wasn't long after that, there was a big sign out there, car wash coming soon. And boy, it was a big one. Oh my, 4 or 5 stalls, 2 vacuum cleaners. They had flags everywhere, a paved parking lot, and it was in a perfect location. Well, you know what happened. It got to where my dad couldn't compete with that. And my dad sold his car wash. I don't know whether he lost money or he made money, but he sold it. Few months after that, the fella who built the big car wash died. And they closed that car wash down. On those 2 sites where those car washes were, you know what stands in both of those sites today? A church. A church. There's a church that was built in both of those locations. You know, really, if you think about it, everything comes back to God. Everything eventually comes back to God. Jesus spoke in stories. We call them parables. They're stories that everyday people can understand. He talks about things that people know about and they can relate to. He tells a story of a man who was doing really well. He had a farm and his grain, he harvested so much grain. And grain is wealth. And he looks out upon his harvest and he says, what in the world am I going to do? He was probably a thinker. He was thinking about what he was going to do with all his grain, with all his wealth. And he looks at these barns and they're small. And he thinks. I'm sure he probably thought, maybe the thought passed his mind to give his workers a bonus or to help the poor and the needy. He may have thought of that. And then he thought, oh no, what I'll do is I'll build bigger barns. I'll build bigger barns and I'll put my wealth in that. And he went to bed, and that very night, God came to him and said, this very night you will die. It's not hard for us to see the point of this parable. It's not hard at all. If I could soften the landing of this parable, I would. But what it says and what it means is everybody, everywhere, will give an account of what we've done while we've been on this earth. Maybe we need to sleep on that, because I know I can do better, and probably you can too.